Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I'm your host as usual, and obviously, welcome back to the show. Today's episode 141 of the show, and before we get started, we're going to do a house cleaning real quick because, well, you guys know we always like to do it around here, and, well, there's a few things I want to go over before we jump right into today's episode, because today's episode is more of a, I'd say more of a tech rant, but at the same time, it's also something I've had on my mind for a while, and I wanted to talk about it. However, we have a house cleaning to do, so let's get right into the house cleaning. So I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening or watching today's episode, whichever you prefer, because obviously I do both. I do the video version for the YouTube page, and I do the video, or specifically the audio version, for people that want to listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen to your podcast. And I do want to thank you guys for coming back and listening. It does really mean a lot to me. You guys constantly keep coming back and you keep listening to these episodes. You keep downloading them. You keep sharing them. Obviously, you keep watching them for the peeps on YouTube. But I do also want to say thank you guys for for helping us hit over 2,000 total downloads before the second year of the show. And I do want to thank you guys for that, because to me, that's a really big accomplishment. The fact that we have been able to hit over 2,000 total downloads. It really does mean a lot to me, and I greatly appreciate that. And I do really mean that from the bottom of my heart, because you guys know that when it comes to doing all of this, it's always, you know, for me, it's always a way of just getting away from like the stuff going on in my life. But it's also a way of sharing what's on my mind and what I like talking about and what I always like basically researching in my free time. And I do thank you guys that you guys give me this platform and this opportunity to get to talk to you guys about this stuff, whether it be stuff in technology, stuff about marketing, or anything regarding the video game industry and things going on in that space. I do want to thank you guys for that, because it really does mean a lot to me, and I greatly appreciate that. I do also want to say thank you to Patreon backers for supporting the show, because you guys are lovely. Obviously, there's only one of you guys, but even just one is perfectly fine. You know, granted, we're still trying to get at least 10 by the end of the year. So if you want to become a Patreon backer, you can obviously click the link down below. If you like what you see and you want to support me, then, you know, just become a Patreon backer. We're currently reworking the tiers right now to accommodate for a little bit more special benefits to give people more reasons to become a Patreon backer. I'm still finalizing that, especially given everything going on with finals and stuff like that. I haven't been able to put so much attention to it, but we are getting there to put a little bit more attention to it. But I do want to say thank you guys for all the love and support. It really does mean a lot to me. Thank you for helping us get over 2,000 total downloads. I also want to say, if you guys are watching the video version, you obviously get to see things are a little bit different, because I'm actually using my new camera. And so my old camera was a Canon M6 Mark II. I was using the Sigma 16mm f1.4. But now I'm using the Fuji X-T4 with the 16 to 55mm f2.8 like lens for it. And obviously, because of using this new camera, we're able to get a higher bitrate for video, and we're also able to shoot in 4K. So you guys are getting to see the episode's going to be in 4K now. And, well, you guys get to see the results yourself. So granted, I know not everyone's going to be able to watch this damn thing in 4K, but I do thank you guys for all the love and support. It really does mean a lot to me. But now it's time that we get into the episode, because I do have a lot to talk about in regarding this, especially because of a recent video made by the good old gamer, which I'll be putting the link in the description down below. both for the audio listeners and the video watchers, where in that video, I'm going to paraphrase exactly what happened. In that video, the good old gamer talked about how can you really trust anybody when it comes to doing tech reviews? And with me, I've always had this mindset towards quote unquote reviews. And we even talked about this in the Apple A1 video, or specifically the Apple M1 video when we talked about the Max last week, which the M1 Max, you can see that up below or in the description down below. But in that episode, I talked about how I didn't agree with people doing reviews in a week and claiming that they're full in-depth reviews, because in my humble opinion, I think that's a load of bullshit. And the reason I say that is I have had many conversations with actual professionals when it comes to doing proper reviews, actual technical analysis of things, and I have been told the same thing over and over again. In order to say that a thorough review or technical analysis can be done in a week, the only way you can do that is if you are like straight pushing this thing to the absolute limit and you got a lot of money to test it. And to be honest, I don't think running a lot of just computer benchmarks and playing a couple games is a healthy way to say that this is an accurate review. Granted, I will say this specifically towards smartphones. I will say this towards computer processors and things like that, because yes, while I do agree, I like how people like Hardware Unbox do things where they genuinely run the benchmarks, they run the numbers, they do actual performance tests using actual applications that people will use. And obviously, yes, for graphics cards with games, like how do they run these games? That's actual fair analysis. And I do believe that when it comes to the smartphone space, or even like the whole situation with the M1 Max, this issue has just become even more amplified, where can you really trust a review that's a week long? Because I don't think you're going to find all the bugs in a week. You won't. It's just, unless if you're actually like testing this thing and putting it through its paces and actually pushing these things to their limits, I don't see how it's physically possible to do this in just a week. I believe it takes a month. I believe it takes 6 months. I believe it takes a year. It requires an ongoing analysis and an ongoing conversation to properly say that this is a review. And it's ironic because one of my friends, Juan, you guys obviously know Juan, he's been on the show a couple times and I love the brother to death. I treat him as a brother. That Juan has stated this multiple times. We should not treat reviews, especially us as tech reviewers or tech commentators or tech analysts, like whatever you want to call yourself in the tech space, that we cannot just say that a one and done video and it's over, that the conversation ends, that the conversation is not left open to be continued later down the line. No, Juan has agreed that this is not a healthy way of doing things. However, the reason things are done the way they are, and the way you see just a lot of either clickbaity titles or the way reviews are being done in just a quick shotgun manner, is because that's how YouTube's algorithm works. Whether you want to believe it or not, that this isn't covering new ground. This isn't like, oh, earth-shattering news. Like, no, people have known about this for years now. It's just how the YouTube algorithm works, that if you are not talking about the latest and greatest or the most popular things the day they happen, people don't seem to give a shit. Or more specifically, YouTube doesn't give a rat's ass cheeks, and you're basically stuck because your video doesn't get viewed. And well, yeah, all that time you spent working on that video basically means nothing now. And to me, that's very depressing and very disheartening on how that's how things have to be done, because I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's a healthy way to maintain objective commentary, because in my last video, someone commented, and it was a very interesting comment, because when I talked about the M1 Max, I openly stated this, that I believed that the commentary behind the M1 Max was a little bit too positive, and they made it seem that there was almost no issues. And if you tried to mention any issues, you would get instantly downvoted, like people would harass you. And I just didn't agree with that, because I was like, no, if someone is genuinely having concerns, we should listen to these concerns, because they're fair points to bring up, because nothing is perfect. There isn't just going to be this perfect be all solution to everything. The same thing goes with, I've even mentioned this when we talk about cameras, like when the Sony a7S III came out, everybody is circle jerking that camera off to oblivion. And that's true, because it's an amazing video camera. We're not going to sit here and pretend that something like that, like we're using the a7S III as an example, where that camera is flawless when it comes to video. It's a beautiful piece of hardware. It's an amazing tool. And yes, Sony makes incredible glass for it too. That obviously does the job too for doing video. But there's obviously some flaws. The fact that, yes, it's primarily a video camera. That's $3,500. It's not a good stills camera. It's not. It's primarily designed as a video camera. People that try to say you can use it as a stills camera, I'm sorry. I'm just being honest with you. 12 megapixels is not enough to do stills. It doesn't look good on big prints. It's just facts. They do not look good. So I'm sorry, but it's primarily designed as a video camera first. That's what it's for. Yes, people don't like Sony colors. They can still be fixed in post, but some people that don't want to deal with that, they just don't like Sony colors. Or at the same time, you know, the whole overheating issues with the a7S III, whether you want to believe it or not, yes, there are issues with that. And that's what we have right now. And you can also even say there's over negativity when it comes to the review space. I know the good old gamer didn't want to mention names, which I won't either. But when the AMD RX 60 or the RX 6000 series launched, there were a couple of YouTubers who were extremely negative that got review samples from AMD. And they were extremely negative. They were clearly showing bias towards NVIDIA. And I do not believe that that was a fair assessment, that was not a fair, rational assessment of a product, because you were being overly negative, even though the numbers didn't support you being negative. The numbers were supporting that actually you should have been more positive towards this, but also bringing up concerns of where areas are weak and how they can improve going forward. But we've seen this time and time again. You always get either one side of the spectrum or you get the other. It's very rare to find somebody who's right in the middle being as objective as they possibly can be. Because I get it. Trying to be 100% objective all the time is not feasible, because we're humans. Humans don't tend to be the most objective, because sometimes we let our own personal biases get in the way of things. And that's just a cold, hard reality of that, is that we allow our own personal biases to generate how we feel about something, even though we shouldn't let our feelings dictate what we do, because you should never make a decision based on your feelings, because that's a recipe for disaster. That's just a piece of life advice. And the cold, hard reality with that is, when we do not focus on trying to be as objective as we can be, and we just want to push our own narrative, and we just want to not provide the most accurate information possible, especially given people that have bigger platforms, which, just being honest, if you have a bigger platform, you have much more responsibility on your shoulders than I do. Because yes, I'm a small channel. I am a small podcast. I do not have hundreds of thousands of people listening to my show or watching on YouTube. I don't even have 1,000 subscribers. Heck, I don't even have 100 subscribers on YouTube. And then you see these people with millions being incredibly reckless with their fan base, being incredibly reckless with how they present information, knowing that their fan base is watching them, actively watching them, and taking their words as gospel and running with it. I believe it is incredibly careless of them to not be as objective as they can be, but also present information in a healthy and accurate way. Because all this does is just cause issues. And you see it time and time and time again. And I'm getting annoyed of it, because you see a lot of poor judgment calls. You see a lot of over assumptions. You see people trying to justify their over assumptions, saying, no, if you don't agree with this, then you're wrong. Like, or making videos saying, well, these are some really bad hot takes. And you see dumb stuff like that. But here's the cold hard reality. Let's use the Apple M1. Let's use the Max. Trying to justify maybe 10 to 20% of the actual professional market and trying to say that that's 100% of the market is ludicrous. Because, and some people might even say that's a highball to say that, you know, videographers, cinematographers, you know, audio engineers and things like that only make up 10 to 20% of the market. It could be less, it could be more. That's why I gave a range. However, to say that that workflow is justifiable enough to say that this is recommended for everybody is not a good idea. I strongly believe that that is not a wise decision, that that's overstretching, and you're essentially trying to generalize a little bit too much in a way that doesn't make logical sense, because the industry doesn't rely on Macs. The industry relies on Windows, whether you like it or not. PCs are the standard. A lot of engineering software, a lot of medical software, a lot of software that relies on Windows, that's specifically designed for Windows because it doesn't run on Mac. You can't make it run on a Mac because people don't want to use, they don't want to use emulation. They don't want to use, what's it called? Ooh, man, now I'm forgetting stuff. Woohoo! They don't want to try to run Windows on a Mac. They don't want to deal with that with Boot Camp or anything like that. And granted, now with the M1s, well, you lost Boot Camp. So even though some people say for now, no, it's staying that way for a while because ARM, like the way Apple has designed things, they're not going to make Boot Camp run on there. But this is the reality that we live in, is that we tend to make a little bit more overgeneralization, or you try to make, or specifically you have specific individuals who are downplaying the downsides of something that you essentially pretend that they don't exist, and you're only focusing on the good, when I think that's a bad way of going about it. I do believe that you should talk about the good and the bad. I do not believe that you should focus on either one of the extremes and focus on only the good or focus on only the bad. I believe that you have to be right in the middle and give both, because then you're able to give a fair assessment of something, because then now you're giving the people who are watching your video or looking up to you for information, you're giving them the full scope, because now they know the benefits and they know the drawbacks, because now they can make comparisons on their own part, which requires the person asking for that information and who has received that information to do a little bit of homework, because now you have placed the responsibility on them to do their homework, because now they have to compare what can they live with and what can they live without. Now you put it in their hands. And for me, it's very disheartening seeing how a lot of these quote unquote tech reviews almost just seem like marketing shill. If I'm being honest with you, it, to be honest, does. Sometimes it makes things come off as just marketing shill. And that's very disheartening, because you don't want these things to become just marketing propaganda. And that's what a lot of people view this as, because some people question the integrity of tech reviews going forward, especially when companies don't seem to really like when you talk bad about their products. Even though it's not that you're supposed to talk bad about them, but you're supposed to be honest about what you're talking about. Like, you should be honest, unless if you are paid to do a review. I personally never agree with paid reviews. I believe that you should never do a paid review on a product. I believe that if you are given something by a company, that you should have full creative freedom to talk about that product in whichever way you feel is appropriate. But I do not believe that doing a paid review should be considered a review. I believe that that's just you being honest. Like, yes, I have been paid to talk about this product. That's all it is. I'm just talking about it. I'm not giving my review. I'm not giving my analysis. I'm just talking about it. Do not label it a review, because it's not, because you've been paid to talk about something, and everything you talk about is being monitored by somebody. So it had to get approved by somebody. So for me, if I'm being genuinely honest with you guys, it's really annoying seeing the whole state of things right now, because even the good old gamer mentioned himself, he doesn't know what the future of tech reviews are going to look like. Even though a lot of people mention that if you look at the current state of things, companies benefit more from just talking to influencers and just having them talk to their fan base and be like, hey, I have this new product here. This thing is great. Go out and buy it. And that's just free marketing. It's just free real estate at that point. Like, you basically get a guaranteed customer, because if people are going on Twitch and watching a streamer and they're like, yeah, I just got this new graphics card. You guys can see how it runs right now. You know, it's really good. Go buy one right now. This is what I'll put a link in the description down below. And that's just the reality, because when somebody sees somebody that they follow have something and they're like, man, this thing is great, 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to go buy it. Just being honest, like 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to go buy it. And for me, I just don't agree with that wholeheartedly. I don't personally, from my own personal experience, I just don't agree with that. But I will say that this is the current state of things when it comes to reviews, that we are currently living with. I would say not half-assed, but I would say reviews that are not living up to their potential of analysis or generally talking about something and giving insight, rather than just regurgitating a spec sheet, rather than just, regurgitating like marketing shill that's given to you by companies. Rather, we should be putting the claims of these companies to the test. That's what we should do, because that is a review, is you are accurately testing the claims of a company about a product. That's what Juan always does. He always talks about that when you watch an Apple press conference where they talk about 3 times of performance. Okay, what is 3 times of performance? Like, how do you quantify 3 times of performance? And that's why I like it when Juan does a review, because Juan doesn't just pump out a review and just be like, oh, we're done. Like, no, the conversation stays open for analysis over time, that there's constant work being done. And Juan takes his time with his reviews. I'm just being honest. The guy does. He puts a lot of work into his stuff, because he's done this for such a long time and he knows what it really looks like to put a lot of work into something. And the same thing goes with people like El Jefe. Same thing goes with people like Viper. Same thing goes with people like Get Flanked. Like, yeah, I'm not saying they're the best of the best, but for what they do, yeah, they at least stay true to their guns and they at least tell you what's up. Like, they're not going to pull their punches. And that's just the cold hard reality, is that who can you really trust? Like, who can you really trust? And I feel like we, as viewers of stuff in the technology space, whether it be, watching graphics card reviews, smartphone reviews, watching camera reviews, watching tech gear, like anything related to technology, or even things in business or in marketing, or things going on in the gaming industry, or reviews about games and stuff like that. We have to be mindful of who we're watching. What are their biases? What are their objectives? What are they trying to accomplish with this information? Like, what are they trying to push? What are they trying to promote? And I feel like we, as watchers, as I would say viewers, we should be more mindful of what we're watching. And the same thing goes for us as tech reviewers, tech commentators, whatever you like to call yourself, YouTubers, podcasters, videographers, cinematographers, whatever you want to call yourself. We should be mindful and held accountable to the things that we say. Because if we are just let with free reign, then yeah, we can get away with saying whatever bullshit we want. That's just the reality of it. We should be mindful of the things that we share with our fan bases, because there's people that actually like our opinions. There's people that like our viewpoints on something, and that might take it as gospel. So we should be mindful of the things that we say, because if we're not, we could be responsible for a bad decision. And that's why I always tell people, with me, the current state of tech reviews, I'm not too happy with it. Granted, I get it. People are just focused on trying to get the quick bag. People, like, you just got to get the clicks. You just got to get the views. And that's just the reality. Like, you got to spend so much time making creative thumbnails. You got to spend so much time thinking of catchy titles to catch people's attention that works with the algorithm. And there's so much, I would say, unnecessary things that shouldn't be there, because if I'm looking for a video that talks about, say, maybe a review of a Fuji X-T4, I shouldn't need to look for a clickbaity title that talks about the Fuji X-T4 trash camera, but something, like Some like I don't need to look for something like that. Like I'd be like, hey, this is a Fuji X-T4 review, in-depth review, in detail. Like that would be more useful to me. But alas, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. And until somebody or a group of people are willing to stand up and say, hey, we need to change the algorithm because this just isn't fair to a lot of people. Until people are willing to do that, then we're kind of stuck in the place we're at right now. That's just the reality of it. We're just stuck here. However, I do want to say that for me, and I'm specifically referring to myself here, and I make this very clear, I refer to myself. Everything I do, I will always try to do while being as objective as I possibly can be. If I can't be objective about something, I will tell you. I will honestly tell you straight up, because I have no reason to lie to you guys. I have no reason to bullshit you guys. I have no reason to pull my punches. I will tell you straight up, if I cannot be 100% objective, or at least as objective as humanly possible about something, I will make it very clear. I will make it very clear and obvious. I will even state it at the beginning of the freaking episode that, hey, this is not objective. This is me just, focusing only on my opinions, not objective information. However, I do thank you guys for all the love and support. It really does mean a lot to me. How do you guys feel about the current state of reviews in the tech space, business space, marketing, whatever space you want to consider? How do you feel about reviews currently? Do you feel like they were better a long time ago? Do you feel like they've definitely gone downhill? Where do you feel like reviews can improve? And if I want to make this specifically pointed towards myself, when I do a review, how would you want me to go about doing a review? What would you want me to talk about? What things would you want me to focus on? And I'll leave that to you guys, just to y'all's discretion, and let you guys decide. Let you guys go in the comment section, hit me on my social medias, on all my social medias, whichever you prefer to do. Let me know. How do you guys feel? What do you guys like? What do you dislike? If you're watching this video on YouTube, you can leave a like, dislike, whichever you want to leave. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed. Notification bell so you know when these episodes go live. And obviously you can become a Patreon backer because, well, you guys get these episodes early, so kind of a nice benefit. But I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening, because it really does mean a lot to me. I do want to say this though, and I want to leave you with this. I'm not upset with how reviews have turned out so far, but I am a bit disappointed that this is where we have gotten, because it's a bit disheartening to see that this is where we have come, or where it's gotten so far. That doesn't mean that there aren't great people, great creators who are promoting or making great content that is to help you, to be informative, to, run the numbers, that are willing to show you no BS, run the numbers, and give objective takes about things, and have an open discussion about this, and not just close it off with one and done conversations. That is how I feel is what a healthy review looks like, is that when it's an open conversation that can be opened whenever new information is available, when new developments happen, when something changes, we can have these discussions. And I feel like that's important when we talk about technology in any space, whether it be cars, cameras, smartphones, computer parts, whatever you want to talk about. When new developments are made, we should talk about them. We should address them. We shouldn't just, I would say, if something comes out rough, like say a product launches and it's not the best at launch, we acknowledge it. We're like, yes, in its current state, it's not the best. Maybe something changes 6 months down the line and then it becomes amazing. And they're like, well, this product that we talked about a couple months ago, it just got an update of some sort and it's great. And it actually does its job now, and it does it perfectly with no issues. Then these are the kind of conversations and reviews that I like to see, and that I would like to promote to you guys, that I will strive to do on my end, is that I will do reviews where I will review the product the way it is in front of me. And then if something changes, we go back and we talk about it again later down the line when the changes have happened, they've had time to sit in, and we go from there. But I do want to thank you guys for everything. Again, if you are watching on YouTube, you guys obviously get to enjoy the nicer video quality for the camera. Granted, just being honest with you guys, it was a bit finicky to get this thing going because of the whole, well, getting this thing to work properly with OBS and dealing with colors. But yeah, it's a bit finicky, but I do like it. And obviously for my peeps that follow me on my social medias or even know me in real life, obviously this will be my new photography camera, my stills camera, and obviously video camera as well when I do photo shoots and video work for people, whether it be for weddings or for couples or singles, whatever. That, this will be my new main cam to do everything. So obviously I hope you guys get to follow me along. If you want to see stuff like that, then you can go hit me up on my social medias. I'll be leaving links in the description down below. But for now, I thank you guys for everything. This isn't the only episode we're doing this week. We will be doing another episode this week where we're going to be talking about the AMD RX 6000 series launch, because oh boy, I alluded to it in this video where we talked about people's reviews about it, and I'm going to be giving y'all my own take in regards to how I feel about these things. But for now, I thank you guys for everything. I love you guys to death. Please continue to be safe. Have yourselves a wonderful week, and I will see you guys Friday. But for now, enjoy today's episode, and thank you guys for all the love and support. It really means a lot to me. Bye, guys. Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.